Oh, look at who's going to be on the sidelines tonight in Pittsburgh. The Texans and the Steelers working for Westwood One Radio. It's Ross Tucker, CBS Sports college football NFL analyst and host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. What do you expect to happen tonight?
I expect to be really cold, Dan. I think it's a high of 37. I am planning and plotting out how many layers I'm going to be wearing right now.
Is there a chance you have a jacket or coat that's similar to what Aaron Andrews was wearing yesterday?
No, I don't. And in fact, I haven't even talked to my wife yet about what I'm going to wear. I usually wear this like bright orange ski jacket because I try to get as much TV time as possible. I'm trying to amuse myself, Dan, right? So anytime, everybody needs to follow me on social media at Ross Tucker NFL so you see what I'm wearing. Because anytime a player goes out of bounds, I immediately go over there, try to help them up. I try to get as much TV time as possible, Dan, for the brand. It's important, you know?
Is Mike Tomlin, I don't want to say is he coaching for his job, because it feels like if he wants to continue to coach, he can in Pittsburgh. Do you get that sense?
1,000%.
Okay.
I think that win against the Ravens was massive. I think if Mike Tomlin wants to be in Pittsburgh, he'll be in Pittsburgh. If tonight's a disaster, I think that there's a chance maybe he'll think it's time to move on. I tend to doubt it. I feel like they're going to probably bring back Aaron Rodgers. And I think that they believe, no matter what happens tonight, that they're close enough that maybe with Rodgers next year, they could win a couple playoff games and go on a run. And I think Tomlin knows he can wait some other time to do TV. But I do think that'll be the transition. I think he'll do a Sean Payton sabbatical year at some point where he does television for a year and then goes back to another team at some point.
Well, your Eagles at home with all of that talent are staying at home for the playoffs. How surprised were you?
It's funny that you ask it in that way because I am surprised specifically in that game. But if you watched every snap they played all year, you shouldn't be overly surprised because that's kind of how they played all year. I guess I thought, Dan, they had rested their guys. They were very healthy going into that one, really with the exception of Lane Johnson. The Niners were so beat up. The Niners had to play Seattle last week, and really, let's be honest, Seattle beat the crap out of them up front, both sides of the ball. It just kind of felt like the Eagles, with that defense, would be able to turn it on. I thought they'd win the game. I thought there was a chance they would kind of pull away in the fourth quarter. It's really remarkable if you think about it. I mean, Brock Purdy had 2 bad interceptions to Quinyon Mitchell. The Eagles didn't turn it over once. The Eagles, Saquon Barkley ran for over 100 yards, and they still lost the game. And I'm sitting there calling the game with Ian Eagle, wondering how many guys for the 49ers right now would even start for the Eagles. I mean, it's like a handful. Diamador Lenore would probably start at the one. I'm not going to go through all of them, but it's less than 5. Maybe it's 5. I don't know. It's not many guys for the 49ers would start for the Eagles, which is why I would say that game yesterday and the season in particular are really a massive missed opportunity for the Eagles. Dan, you've been doing this a long time. Windows are small. The Eagles have the best roster in the NFL, probably again, and most of them are in their prime. And to not even win a playoff game, and in particular to lose at home to that beat up team, that's one that, people will look back on and say, how did that happen when we had that roster and that group of guys that they didn't go on any type of run in the postseason?
Any fallout in Philadelphia?
I think there will be a decent amount of changes. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, a couple years ago when they had the disappointing ending, they moved on from both coordinators. They brought in Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio, and those were big factors in them going ahead and winning the Super Bowl last year. They also were aggressive, getting guys like Saquon Barkley and others. Certainly it feels like they'll probably have a new offensive coordinator, right or wrong. I think the perception is such that I'd be surprised if Kevin Patullo kept his job. It feels like it's run its course with A.J. Brown. Maybe not. We'll see. It's a pretty big dead cap hit if they trade him before June 1st. But there's certainly some significant changes along the way because they know this. They're very smart. They know that this was a big, big missed opportunity and that they only have a couple more years here with this core group being in their prime and having a chance to really make a run at this thing.
What do you think happens in Green Bay?
Well, so what's so interesting about that is, I saw where Shefty tweeted that the Packers are hopeful to work out a deal with LaFleur, over the next couple days. I've never understood this, Dan. This absolute people being terrified of a coach going into the last year of his contract. Why? Why is that such a big deal? Because it's a talking point? I mean, it's a talking point about whether or not the guy is going to keep his job. Like if LaFleur gets a new contract and the Packers struggle, it's still going to be a talking point. I don't know. I've never understood why players go in the last year of their contract all the time. And by the way, they have injury risk, but these organizations are so afraid. It's pretty clear that there's a little bit of consternation there with LaFleur's lack of playoff success. And so to give him some new deal for $15 to $20 million a year for 4 years, that doesn't really make sense to me. I mean, it's pretty clear that they want to see more results. Let him coach out the last year. When's the last time a coach was on a last year of his contract? It went unbelievably well. He was a free agent, and then he went somewhere else. That doesn't happen. That's not a thing.
But you got the John Harbaugh question. So that's the curveball with all of these openings, and even openings that aren't open, potential openings. Where do you think John Harbaugh is going to end up?
Ooh, I think it was very intentional that he wanted to wait till this week to take any interviews, because I think he believed that if Buffalo lost, maybe that one would have opened up, and that if Green Bay, there'd be the potential there. It doesn't sound like that's going to happen, but there still could be a mutual parting of the ways there between the Packers and Matt LaFleur if those contract discussions don't go as well as they would like. So I think those would have been the two that he would have strongly considered the most, just because, he's in this thing now to try to win Super Bowls. I mean, he's made a ton of money. He's been doing it a long time. And those are the two that would give him the best chance to do that. Other than that, it becomes fascinating. How does he feel about Jackson Dart? How does he feel about Cam Ward? I mean, how does he feel about the Cleveland situation? I guess if he went to Cleveland, that would give him the opportunity to, stick it to the Ravens if that's something he wants to do. I don't know. It's a big difference between where he's been and where he's going to go, because he's going to go to a team that it's going to be kind of like a rebuild for Harbaugh, and he never really had that. When he went to Baltimore, they had Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and all these guys, and they made the playoffs that first year. We've never really seen John Harbaugh have to take a bad team, from the bottom and grow them up to being a playoff caliber team. I don't even know. I guess we'll find out if that's where he lands with one of them, whether or not he can even do it.
Yeah, that's why I brought up, do you go to Tennessee because you have a franchise quarterback and you got cap room? But as you said, that's a process. That's a couple of years. And does he have the patience to build something? When Jim Harbaugh was in the NFL, he had the Niners with a lot of talent, took them to a Super Bowl. Even with the Chargers, you don't jump to another or go to another job unless you go, can I succeed? How long will it take to be formidable? Can we win a Super Bowl? And you bring up something great. He would love to add another Super Bowl there, or at least compete for it. But I go back to, and I keep saying this over and over, is he the kind of coach who gets you over the hump? Like, how many coaches get a 2-time MVP but don't do much with them?
Well, and what's so wild about that is that if Lamar won the MVP last year, like a lot of people thought he should, he'd be a 3-time MVP with 3 playoff wins. That's the thing that I think is puzzling about Harbaugh. Dan, he won 10 playoff games with Joe Flacco. Now, they had a really good defense, okay? Multiple Hall of Famers. We know, especially those first couple years for Flacco, not as much, when they won the Super Bowl. So Harbaugh has proven that he can win at the highest level, and he won a Super Bowl. But, I mean, he's not going to find a quarterback.
It feels like Lamar gets the blame, not John Harbaugh.
I think you're right, and there's a reason for that. It's because Harbaugh had already won a Super Bowl.
Okay.
It's like we all have these boxes we check.
So if Tomlin doesn't have a Super Bowl, he's probably not the coach in Pittsburgh.
I think that's probably true, although they've had 3 coaches since 1969. They operate different than any other franchise.
But if I said to a Steeler fan base, hey, you're not going to win playoff games, but you're going to be in the playoffs the next 10 years with Mike Tomlin. The farthest you'll go is you'll win 1 playoff game a year a couple of times. Do you think that Steeler fans are signing up for another 10-7, 9-8, barely make the playoffs, and you're non-threatening in the postseason?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I live in central Pennsylvania.
But they have.
I live in central Pennsylvania. I'm close friends with a bunch of Steelers fans. Dan, there were Steelers fans that wanted them to lose to Baltimore because they're so fatigued with Tomlin. They're so sick of this a little bit better than mediocrity. They're ready for a change. There's no question.
Patriots and the Chargers. Patriots, did just enough. Justin Herbert, as if he didn't know that he didn't have a good offensive line. He was reminded that he doesn't have a good offensive line. But the Patriots are doing it with a defense that is kind of nondescript. It doesn't mean that they don't have talent there or they didn't spend money. It's just they don't have those big names that we've seen before. So how do they go to the Super Bowl?
Probably somewhat similar to what they did last night, and then they got to get Christian Gonzalez back because he's their best defensive player. And I thought Milton Williams stepped up, which they really needed. But it's going to be Drake May, ultimately, not just his arm, but his legs. I thought Collinsworth made a really good point early in the game last night when he talked about the quarterback that ran it better, would ultimately be the team that won. That was a major factor in the game. And by the way, Dan, very surprised that Jalen Hurts did not run it more for Philadelphia.
But that's been the whole year. Running. I mean, he averaged like 10 attempts. This year, just over 6. That seems by design or by choice.
Yeah. No, and think about watching the Bills Jags and think about Josh Allen when it really comes down to it and what he does with his legs and the immense advantage that is for the Bills. And you don't see that. It's funny. I was struck watching Herbert last night that he's sort of he's like a poor man's Josh Allen. He's big, strong arm, can run. And I love Justin Herbert. But Dan, Josh Allen makes the plays in the critical games more often than not. Herbert doesn't. It's like he's, what do the kids call it? He's like store brand Josh Allen. It's like they're very, very similar, except Allen comes through and makes the plays at a much higher percentage than Herbert when physically they're almost mirror images of each other. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and I asked Jim Harbaugh this year, and I asked Justin Herbert, are you going to run more? Because we saw that at Oregon. We saw that in the Rose Bowl. He does have that ability. It feels like Josh Allen knows when he's going to run. Justin Herbert is kind of in the moment ready to run.
That's a terrific point. It feels like Josh Allen sometimes decides before the play, and it feels like Josh Allen wills himself. I think he's a little heavier than Herbert, a little bit more agile, and I think he's a little bit faster, but it's just that little difference. That is the difference. Josh Allen can put on Superman's cape more often than Herbert can.
What happens at halftime with the Packers and the Bears that changes that game?
I don't know, and I still can't figure out how that happened. I really can't. I mean, say this out loud. The Bears defense is not very good. They're really opportunistic. They got 0 turnovers. Caleb Williams, they were 1 for 4 in the first half on 4th down. Caleb Williams threw 2 picks in the red zone for the Bears, and the Bears won the game. I mean, if you just write down, like if you do bullet points or say it out loud, there is no way the Bears should have won that game, and yet the missed kicks and whatever, and they did it. It's just remarkable what they've done. I cannot wait for that Rams-Bears game.
Be careful on the sidelines, okay? Because I know you're working the sidelines tonight. Don't get too close to the action where you get wiped out.
Oh, I get way back. As soon as they get out to the numbers, I'm out of there. I'm actually coming back in to try to get my TV time while all the people that are clueless are backing up at the last second.
All right, so you're going to have a big yellow parka on tonight?
I don't know. My wife thinks it's unprofessional to wear my orange ski jacket. So you gotta follow me on social media at Ross Tucker NFL. I might wear like a pea coat or something that makes me seem more professional. I don't know.
Are you going to wear a hat?
No, like a newspaper delivery boy hat?
No, like Tom Landry, a Tom Landry hat.
No, it's too cold. I got to cover my ears.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to have like a skull cap on.
All right, maybe a scarf?
No, I'm anti-scarf. Scarf guys are trying too hard. Scarf guys are like fancy. You know what I mean? Like a scarf guy, you only put a scarf on if you think you're really cool. And I'm not that type of person.
Yeah, but you're from the Ivy League. Ivy League, that's scarfy.
I'm from Reading, Pennsylvania, way before I was from the Ivy League.
Thank you, Ross.
See you, Dan.
Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Follow him on social media at Ross Tucker NFL. He's working for Westwood One tonight. He'll be on the sidelines for the Texans and the Steelers. Take a break. Our best and worst of the weekend after this.